Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Best Books Ever. I am Tyler, and today we are continuing the Cirque du Freak series, Book 2, The Vampire's Assistant by Darren Shan. Doing the whole book, of course, just like the last time. And yeah, this was more of it, right? So we talked about how last time very much felt like a prologue. It was like, okay, we're here. We know what Darren's doing. We got Crepsley, all that stuff. But now he's finally a vampire. Well, he's, half vampire, right? Now we start to get to see a little more of that. I think even last time I was like, we will now see some of the struggles of him becoming a vampire. We knew the initial ones at the end-ish of book one, but that was more so like trying to get out of it and trying to, transition, or I guess like immediately get ripped from his past life. Now we're living with it, and now it's more of the actual vampire stuff, and just more of the, struggling between his two halves, basically. And we did see a bunch of that. Um, so yeah, that's definitely a running theme in this one, which I feel like by the end of it, he doesn't really, he definitely doesn't love it. Definitely doesn't love it, but I feel like he does sort of accept it, and very reluctantly he does accept it. And I would hope, I don't really remember the specific events following this book, but I would hope that he does sort of say, okay, it's either be a vampire, do the vampire stuff, or die, because that was obviously one of the biggest struggles in this book was I need to drink blood to survive. I don't want to because that'll like lose my humanity, which is such a dumb argument. Lose my humanity, but it's like if you don't, you're gonna waste away, and you're not just gonna be weak and be like, you know, what's the word? It's not like when you're just like bedridden. You're not just gonna be like bedridden your whole life. You're going to die. So you need it. Again, with the whole, I wasn't even necessarily planning on talking about this specifically, but with the whole argument, he was like, I'm going to lose my humanity, I'm going to become evil. I think that's one of the struggles with, one of the frustrations with reading a book that is kind of targeted toward the younger audience, because usually the protagonist is younger, and so they have that very like juvenile mindset. We kind of ran into this a little bit here and there when we were reading things like the Percy Jackson series, right? Where it's like, come on, Percy, just if you just did it this way, or if you just talk to this person this way, or it would make your life so much easier. But he's a child, and it's tough, right? So you kind of think about it with this, with Darren too, because there's a couple aspects to it, like him becoming evil. It's like, well, do you truly think Crepsley is evil? Like, he's done things you haven't agreed with, but him as a person, you can be like, oh, drinking blood is evil. It's like, okay, cool. But anything other than that, like, has Crepsley done anything since you've been with him that has led you to believe, oh, this is an evil man? He's not going out like robbing places, or, you know, doing like, killing sprees, or like, so it's like inherently you just saying he's evil because of this feels wrong. Also, with that, is it just the drinking blood they have a problem with? Because you're literally here with other, freaks that are monsters that regular people would easily call evil in some senses. So it's like, it, uh, it's weird for you to kind of just stick with that. Like, that's the hill you're dying on, right? And then even the other aspect to it, which was um, him losing his humanity. It's like you're not human anymore, though. Like, technically you're half human, but you're not human anymore. Him clinging onto this hope that he had this one thought of like, oh well, maybe if I don't drink blood, then eventually the vampire blood in me will just wear itself out. It's like, no. Why would you think that is at all? You know, him even talking to Evra and being like, I bet you there's a way that vampires can survive without drinking blood that Krebsley's not telling me about, purely just because, you know, it's like a last ditch effort, and he doesn't want to tell me until the very last minute, until he needs to tell me. Again, it's that very young mind, the very ignorant thought process. It's just like, no, this is what you are. You need to do this. There is no getting around this. And you, even if they're being a part of you, that's like, I would rather die. It's like, that is also stupid. That's not righteous. You know, that is very, very boneheaded. I would rather die than drink. But it's like, yeah, but you're not like, we've gone out on hunts with Krebsley. It's like, you don't kill them, first of all. And they wake up and they're fine. Like, we had this great reveal, you know, these little breadcrumbs of information about vampires, and how, you know, Darren Shan, the author, has twisted some of the some of the characteristics of the traditional vampires that we know of. I don't remember any other version of vampires having the like sleeping gas breath, but that's pretty cool to be like, hey, we don't have to like knock them out like physically, through like blunt force or something. Like, no, we breathe on them, they fall asleep, drink some of their blood, patch up the wound, and they wake up and they are none the wiser. So stuff like that. And then even him going out, him trying to, Krebsley being like, hey, we got this like morgue. Why don't you drink the dead guy's blood? You know, because it seems that you have such a problem with the people who are alive, right? Because you don't want to hurt them. You think it's wrong. You know, you're essentially attacking another human. This guy's dead. Doesn't need his blood anymore. Doesn't, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's gross. That's not. It's like every opportunity I give you is frustrating. And to be fair to Darren, and even Krebsley admits this, probably shouldn't have tried to force feed him blood when he was sleeping. That was wrong. The intent was good, but forcing it upon him is only going to make you push back. That's with anything, right? Forcing someone to do something, even if it is the right thing, is going to make that person try to deny it 10 times harder. But again, it's just, it's why I said it's very frustrating trying to watch him, because it's just, I don't know. And again, I think in real life, if this were a thing, I think we would all maybe struggle the first few times, maybe like the first few days, first couple weeks, whatever. I don't remember exactly the timeline, but eventually your like natural instincts kick in, and like your instincts have they have a conversation with your conscious mind, and they say, listen, you need to do this or we are going to die. It's why, like, I don't know. No, I'm not going to say that, but you know what I mean? It's just like, come on, you got to do it. And again, like the way it is, kind of presented to you. It's like, we don't hurt them. Like, it's fine. Like literally, you are getting what you're getting from movies, and how vampires are always portrayed as evil. We're just humans. You know what I mean? How is this any different than, I don't know. I was going to say with animals, but, I guess he would say animals aren't humans, So, whatever. Anyway, I was not expecting to go on that tangent, but we did. And it was an important part of this book, so. We will skip to the end, though. That's where we usually start. We have the very tragic ending of Darren drinking Sam's blood. Oh, because RV let the Wolfman out. Wolfman attacked Sam, killed Sam. They knocked the Wolfman out. And Krebsley convinced Darren to drink Sam's blood so that some of his memories will live on with him. We see that was confirmed at the end, because Darren, and maybe even us a little bit, the reader, was a little skeptical and if that was actually a thing or if it was just like some weird tradition or whatever. But it does get confirmed that at least a little part of it does get passed through because Darren all of a sudden has a craving for pickled onions, something that was uh, was a Sam character trait. We saw that a few times. Even in that fight we saw, I think he threw the jar of pickled onions at the Wolfman at the beginning. So just to remind us. So one, I think that's really cool. So that's actually something that can happen. I wonder if that'll come up again, or if it was just for this little mini arc of like, hey, memories, we got Sam, or if that'll come up again later. I don't remember if that happens. I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, I think that is really cool because it does help him. Finally, Darren drinks someone's blood. He should be good for a while, and we'll see if that actually like loosens up, his thoughts and his feelings on the idea of drinking blood. It's sort of the thing with a lot of other things in real life where you may be against something, but then you finally do it once and you're like, okay, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't the end of the world. I guess I could see a scenario where I continue to do this thing. So hopefully that happens with Darren because, again, I just don't want to, I just don't want to go into the next book and he's still like arguing with Crepsley about, I don't want to drink blood. It's like, you have to, like you've already done it once, your whole idea of like turning evil or losing your humanity, like it's already gone. Which again, I don't believe in, but if Darren is going to stick with that logic, then he has to stick with it on both ends. And then I guess the whole Sam thing was sad. I think the one thing about these books, and why on one hand when I introduced that we were going to do this series, it's like, hey, don't get intimidated by the number of books in the series, because there are 12, because the books themselves are fairly short, like less than 200 pages. I think book one was like 171 and this book was like 178 or something, so pretty far under 200 pages, honestly. 20 some pages under is hefty. So if you line up a few of these books, it equals like one book. I think Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was like over 500, I believe. So probably about like 3 of these books is one of the ballad book, which we did do, which was very good. If you didn't read that along, but I would say one of the downsides is it does feel like these are smaller stories, and maybe it doesn't give us quite enough time to really love these characters. Like for Sam, I don't feel like too much really happened with Sam. Like, I think the moment was done right, and I think it was done effectively, right? I still felt for Sam. I still felt for Darren in that moment. But not like super tragic, not like, oh my God, Sam was my favorite character. I don't think Sam was anybody's favorite character reading this book. And that's not a fault of the writing. I think it's just, this is the story that was told. Again, we didn't really see Sam do too much stuff, just here and there talking, like, there would be a little line here and there about him, visiting and doing some chores or whatever, but really didn't get a big chance to really get to know him and fall in love with the character. But like I said, ultimately I think the moment did work, and what the moment means, aside from just him drinking blood, getting the memories, him actually losing someone close to him, because I think that he's had to experience quite a bit of loss. Him losing his life, right? I guess physically dying, but also losing his family, his friends, all that stuff. For him to really truly lose someone, like watch them die and they're gone, I'll never be able to see them again, because I'm sure there's a little bit of hope that he'll be able to see his family and or friends again at some point. probably, Krebsley's probably not going to let that happen. Although, I guess Darren isn't necessarily going to be his assistant forever. Like, at some point, he's going to, I guess, like, graduate, become his own vampire. Um, so we'll see. But I think another thing that makes that moment hit even harder is the fact that he was at the Cirque. The fact that this book did a really good job of trying to mend some of Darren's pain. Obviously he was on edge the whole time that he was traveling with Krebsley. Didn't like the places they were staying, didn't like the stuff they would talk about, obviously on edge because he wasn't drinking blood. So him going to the Cirque, I think, was a very good decision for everybody. Him specifically because he kind of felt like he was getting a family again, right? He had Evra, who was a very good friend to him, and then he just had everyone else that just, maybe didn't spend a crazy amount of time with everyone individually, but the Cirque did feel like a home, something that he hasn't felt since his actual home that he was born into. So there's two aspects to that, right? One, awesome feeling of it being like, oh man, Darren actually feels good now. Like, he doesn't feel, again, he's not arguing with Krebs all the time. He's not complaining. He's not down, depressed, all this stuff. There are still things in his mind, right? But it's great, But then that leading into Sam dying, it's like, even here, I thought I found a place that I could love and stay, but even here, there is tragedy, and there are things that happen that no matter how much I wanted to stop them, best I could do wasn't enough. So now I think there is an interesting idea here where what happens to the Cirque, right? I don't think it's getting canceled or anything like that. I don't think, they're like shutting it down or anything, but does this weigh on Darren too much to the point that Darren feels he has to leave or take a break from the Cirque? Because I could see that being very traumatizing, just the act itself being traumatizing, but also staying there. And it's like, this is the place. This is the place that it happened. Like, every day you wake up in the place where one of your only friends was murdered. And then also, like, the Wolfman isn't dead. The Wolfman is still here. He's still going to perform because they need him to draw in people and all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, I got to watch him every night, So I could see this being very hard for him, and I could see him wanting to take a break and saying, hey, Krebsley, can we leave the Cirque for a little bit? Which, again, I think is a double-edged sword because, I guess not double-edged sword. I guess it's just good and bad. I guess double-edged sword is normally two bad things. I don't know. I'm not a writer. Two bad things, right? Oh, no, good and bad. Now I'm confusing myself. Okay. I think it would be good because he will be able to leave, get some space. Sucks to leave the people that he likes, especially people like Evra. But, I think it'd be good for him just to get out of there and not necessarily forget Sam. I don't think he'll ever forget Sam, especially due to the fact that he drank his blood and he's got some of his memories and some of his feelings. But sort of distance himself from the event and let him heal without being constantly bombarded by the memories. Although I do think it will be unfortunate because then he'll be leaving everybody. Be leaving all the people that he has grown to love. It would just be him and Krebsley again, which is like, we know how they can butt heads. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. And then also something to add to that. Why did I circle that one? That's strange. Okay. And then, something to add to that whole kind of point that I was trying to make. We have earlier in the book where he rolled up on some kids playing street hockey. Is that what it's called? Well, it's ice hockey. Is this just called hockey? Stick hockey? I don't know. Hockey on the streets. And he went to play with them, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Now, obviously, us as the reader, I feel like we were closing our eyes because we knew this is not going to end well, and it didn't. He ended up breaking some dude's legs, both of his legs. The legs, breaking both legs of somebody is insane. Um, you know, breaking one leg is pretty crazy, but being in a position where you can break both legs, oh man. So he gets called a monster and whatever, he leaves, right? All that stuff. And so I think that's also why the Cirque helped him, because in that moment it just accentuated how alone he was. He had Krebsley, sure, but he still, I mean, especially at this point in the book, he was clinging on to his humanity, as as he likes to call it, and still wanting to fit in, having a hope that not even necessarily someday he'll not be a vampire anymore, but someday he'll be able to find peace with it and live amongst regular people, right? Maybe he's able to control it. Maybe he's able to trust some people with the secret, or maybe he's just able to, um, hide it effectively forever with someone and build a family and friends or whatever, right? But this right here crushed that and is like, I can't. Even when I want to do normal things that I have enjoyed, which is playing some sort of team sports and just having fun, I end up not only hurting someone, but quite possibly ruining their life. Like, they have two broken legs now. Like, they might, they were kind of being mean and unnecessary, right? Very, very much a poor sport in all of this. But I don't know, like that could set like that. I mean, that kid might have been on his way to being like a pro athlete or something, and now he's got two broken legs. Maybe they never heal the same. Maybe his future is ruined in that aspect. Or forget that, his two broken legs. Like, I can't imagine how that would mess you up. I mean, not only physically but also mentally. How tough of a journey he might have ahead of him. So yeah, that's another thing. What else do we have? Oh, and then I guess I can add to the family dynamic. I've already kind of talked about Ever a little bit. He's really cool. Another character I wanted to point out was Truska or Truska. I feel like in my head I pronounce it Truska, but I could be wrong. Truska, she helped him. She gave him a bunch of clothes, cut his hair a little bit. Looked very nice, right? Very nice gesture. Very simple, but I did want to highlight it because I think this is just another aspect of the Cirque as a family, and people come and go, all that stuff. But I think it's nice to have a place, a home base that moves, but it is a home base that you can come back to, and everyone cares for you. And even if you're new, they're like, "Hey, come on, you're part of us now." And there was also that funny thing with Evra, where Evra accused Truska of liking Darren, so there's that whole thing, which I thought was funny. But ultimately, it's like, oh, they're kind of looking out. We're not sure. Again, there's no confirmation of why Truska did that. Maybe maybe she does like him. Evra claimed he didn't say anything. Could have been Krebsley said something. But overall, I thought it was a very nice moment, and again, just kind of shows off their character a little bit. Obviously, Truska specifically, but like I said, the Cirque as a whole, they do try to look out for each other, which is nice. So couple more things. So one was the moment where Darren very seriously considered killing Krebsley. He was performing, got the snake, or not the snake, the spider in his mouth, and thought, I'll kill him right here. I could tell Octa to, to bite him twice. Bam, bam, just bite him twice, and then he's instantly dead. Most likely would have gotten away with it. I think Tiny, not Tiny, Mr. Tall, very smart, possibly can read minds. So I think if anyone would have caught him in the act, not necessarily in the act, but afterwards, um, could have been him. But I think there's a good chance he would have gotten away with it. Just explained it as, oh, it was a slip, I messed up, like first time performing, then whatever, right? Very, very, very believable. I do like that Darren decided not to do it. I do think there's a part of him that is liking Crepsley, even though, especially at that point, still upset with him over just everything. But again, keeps hounding him about the blood, all that stuff. But ultimately, I do like that he did it. I don't like the succeeding moments where Crepsley kind of tells him that he was testing him, because then Darren gets upset. I think Crepsley was right to test him, but I also understand why Darren felt betrayed, even though I don't agree with it. I do understand it. But ultimately, I like that he decided not to. Not only because the book would be very different if he, if he chose to do that, but I think that, I don't know, I like a story when the characters get along, especially when they are on the same side. Because, I think that adds more opportunity and possibility for good moments, for good storytelling moments. And with 10 more books left, I would imagine we're going to need some of that trust and some of that bonding. So, good moment. Good. The last thing I have on here is about Mr. Tiny. Mr. Tiny, we know is the leader of all the blue people. Little people, that's what he calls them. Pretty creepy in general. Both the little people, I want to call them blue people so bad. Both the little people and Mr. Tiny. We learn a little bit about the little people here and there. They just eat whatever. They like meat, I guess. They don't talk. They do what they're told, whatever. They're killing machines, apparently. But Mr. Tiny specifically, very creepy. I like the beginning where Darren is like, why is everyone scared of this guy? He just seems like a normal dude. And then he basically says that he is A-okay with killing children. And he smiles in a way that is very evil. And then in that moment, Darren is like, oh, I understand why people feel this way about this man. I understand why everyone in the room is holding their breath, except for me, because they all know what he is, and I don't yet. So I very much like that moment. I am not sure what the future of his character holds. That is a lie. I know a little bit, but I don't really know that much, and I would like to see more of him. I mean, but I imagine that hinges on Darren staying with the Cirque, and like I said, if I had to guess, I would say Darren does not want to, at least for a little bit. I mean, he's got to come back. I mean, the name, the name of the series is Cirque du Freak, so I imagine most of the time in these 12 books is going to be him at the Cirque du Freak. But I could see him taking a little bit of a break. I just don't know what Mr. Tiny's role would be in all of this. He does the little people. Like, I don't know what who is he? All we know right now is he's the leader, I guess the creator of the little people. And he comes by the Cirque every so often. Like, again, like, I don't, does he fund the Cirque du Freak? Did we say that? I don't remember. I mean, clearly something, right? Clearly there's, I mean, even if it's just giving the help of the little people, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So I just wanted to mention that because I imagine we'll see him again in some capacity, although I don't remember what his deal is exactly. Yeah, that is it. That is The Vampire's Assistant. Let me know what you thought of the book. Any predictions for next time? Like I said, my prediction for next time is Darren wants to leave the Cirque for a little bit. I don't know where they would go. Would it just be a whole book of them like on the streets or whatever? That seems a little boring. I would hope that Darren kind of gets over the whole not wanting to drink blood thing, especially since he's done it once now. I know that that was a special case, but he's really got to get over it. I can't go through another book of him whining about not, I want to be a kid, or, Um, other than that, I don't really feel like they give us a whole lot to go off of, like what the next book is going to be. Next book, by the way, is book 3, which is titled Tunnels of Blood. So even that, I'm like, Tunnels of Blood, what is it? That seems so like metaphorical. Where the first book was A Living Nightmare, and that's like, ooh, that's just like a fun first book title, right? Vampire's Assistant, much more direct. Tunnels of Blood, are there actual tunnels of blood? Because that does not sound good. I don't want to be there. Although maybe vampires want to be there because they like blood. Um, although if it was just like tunnels of water, I don't know that I drink water. I don't know I want to be in tunnels of water. That sounds suffocating. Um, yeah, like I said, I don't really think they give us a whole lot to go off of. I mean, even what I'm saying is like pure speculation, like just me trying to get into the mind of Darren, but that could be very wrong. I don't know. But yeah, that is it, I suppose. Good stuff, good times. I guess until next time, read the entirety of book 3, Tunnels of Blood, and we will see what happens with Darren. Hopefully, he wants to drink blood, because I am sick of his complaining.